All right, so we are live on YouTube, and here comes Kim.
Perfect timing.
Right, let's call the meeting the July 19th, 2021 meeting of the Tiverton Public Library Board of Trustees to order. Welcome, everyone. We'll begin with the consent agenda, and we will remove the minutes of the June 21st meeting from the consent agenda. We will go ahead, Carol. You want to?
I'll make a motion to approve the remaining item on the consent agenda, our friends report.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Carol
Aye.
Herman,
Yes.
Sandy, Chris,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Kim, Kathy. All right, motion passes. All right, the minutes of the June 21st meeting. We had some confusion.
We need to make a correction. Instead of increasing the E-zone budget from 35,000 to 37,000, the hope is to increase the entire collection account line from 35,000 to 37,000. And Catherine, you can confirm that that is the correct amount and category.
We've lost your audio, Catherine, or
No, we can't hear you. We see your lips moving. And you're not muted. We don't see the muted signal.
How about now?
yes.
Okay. That was strange. Yes, that is the correct amount, 35,000 to 37,000 in the collection budget.
I move that we accept the minutes of the June 21st meeting with the corrections stated. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Jay Edwards,
Aye.
Chris Ryan,
Aye.
Sandy Mantell,
Aye.
Kim Sutherland,
Aye.
Carol Herman,
Aye.
Kathy Clarendon, aye. Motion passes. All right, let's move on to the treasurer's report.
All right, and you all can still hear me, correct?
Yes.
Great. So thank you very much. And I'll start off with income and expense reports. So June was the last month of fiscal year 21. We made it. I anticipate having fiscal year 21 reconciled by the August board meeting. We're just waiting for some invoices from Amazon and also some book invoices, some order invoices. So Karen will have everything settled by August. Expenses for June included payroll, benefits. We had utility bills in there, our usual consortium fees, and we were able to order more books in June thanks to the line item transfer earlier in the year. And we did have window cleaning done and also gutter cleaning performed in June. So we are on the up and up there. And the check to GM Refrigeration for the HVAC control system was reconciled in June as well. We're still waiting for the project to begin, but I anticipate that it'll be done soon. I'm also not sure of the downtime yet that will take for our HVAC system. So chances are we won't want to do that on a blistering hot day if it is something that has to be where the HVAC is off for a little while. We did also place a small supply order towards the end of the month as well. Any questions about income and expense reports for June?
So what we see left at the end of June, that 11,745, is that a carryover from the end of the fiscal year?
I thought that was to be consumed, will be consumed by the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. That's
Okay.
And we may actually be a little bit over where we do need to pay the town back. That's actually an ideal situation because that means we've used all of our town appropriation. We also do have book donation funds. We actually had book donation funds given to us throughout the year. But what we did is we purchased with our town appropriation budget. So we will have to pay the town back for the book donation. So we should come out pretty even throughout the year. And I can explain that once it's reconciled in August as well.
Not to sound ignorant, but very naive. We have to pay. We use it all, or we give it back to the town.
That's correct. Yes.
Interesting arrangement.
It is. It is. All right. I can move on to Bank Newport if there are no other questions about income and expense reports. Okay, so our summer reading programs are in full swing, and program materials were part of our June Bank Newport statement. So you'll see those in there. We also had our monthly Zoom subscription. We had a donation made in memory of a library supporter. So those funds for book purchases actually came from Bank Newport. And that was for Little Compton Historical Society. It was actually a donation for local history books, which was fantastic. And so we were able to purchase those directly from the Historical Society. And overall, that is about it for Bank Newport. And I can answer any questions about our Bank Newport account for June.
I don't have a question. I just want to indicate I logged on and I confirmed the ending balance. It is correct.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yep.
And that's
Right.
all I have for treasurer's report.
Then let's move on to committee reports. The Budget Committee.
Okay, so as I mentioned, I believe fiscal year 21 will be reconciled in August. We will definitely have spent our town appropriation by then. Not by then, I mean, we spent it by the end of June, but once everything is reconciled, it should show that we spent all of our town appropriation. That's all I have for fiscal year 21, really. But if there's any sort of closeout questions, I can try and answer those now. Okay, I can move on to fiscal year 22. So the FTR was Saturday, and as far as I know, there was only one budget on the ballot. So I will schedule the budget subcommittee before the August meeting, and that way we can prepare a fiscal year 22 budget draft for the full board for August. I don't anticipate that it will have changed much since where we stood earlier in the year. But I do know that our town appropriation was about $6,000 less than anticipated. So we will have to find somewhere where that will be able to be reconciled with. So I will speak with the budget subcommittee about that.
Any comments, questions, anyone?
Just a brief comment. I assume I don't know, I don't want to get ahead of it, but the draft you put together for the wages for fiscal 2022, I'm assuming that's the amount that probably will be in the budget.
Yes, I anticipate, but we do have some work to do with our personnel subcommittee tonight and also next month on our professional librarian wages. So it could be a tad bit different, but I don't anticipate by much because I do have a plan for making it so that the draft you have in front of you, Sandy, is pretty much very, very close to where we'll be.
Well, that's the nature of a draft anyway. There's usually minor changes anyway, but it's a pretty good idea of what we're looking at.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to the Personnel Committee. Catherine, do you want to give us an overview?
Absolutely, I'm happy to. So I met with the Personnel Subcommittee on Friday, July 9th, to discuss the current wage range for our professional librarians. So what I did is I included the summary that I had put together for the personnel subcommittee for you all in your meeting packet. And I also attached the comparable statistics that I pulled. So what I did is pretty much, we have several libraries that are considered comparable libraries to us, and that is in two senses. One in population and the other in geographical location. So our comparable libraries are Portsmouth, Bristol. I'm going to have to pull this up really quickly. Hold on one moment. Bristol, Burrowville, Town, Narragansett, North Smithfield, Portsmouth. And those libraries have similar populations, similar sort of landscapes to ours as well. And I did talk with the personnel subcommittee. The only town I may consider adding in the future would be Lincoln, because they're also a casino town, but they are a little bit different from us as far as population goes, and also as far as library structure goes. So that's why I haven't included them in yet, but I may, excuse me, opt to do that in the future. So what I typically do when I run comparable statistics is I pull the figures from the OLIS annual survey that all public libraries must complete. So one of the sort of caveats of this information that I like to point out is that we are looking at fiscal year 20 data. I will not actually have fiscal year 21 data until next year. We are always behind a year with this data. It's just the way that it goes and the way that the annual survey happens. So the other caveat of this data is we don't know how long the staff members have been at the library. So that is another mention that I like to point out. And I think it was brought up at one of the previous board meetings as well by Carol. So that's always something good to think about as well. So with that said, one of the recommendations, I had a couple different options. Yes.
It's in tight.
Oh, I had a couple recommendations that we could proceed with, and the one that the personnel subcommittee opted for is to hire the new librarian at $21.98 per hour. This will be a full-time position, and the young adult services librarian is an MLS degree librarian as required by the state. That puts our librarian at, I think, $40,003 per year. I really think that if we're going to attract great candidates, then we really need to be in that range for hiring. With that said, we do have some staff members right now working who are below that wage range. So next meeting, I think we will definitely have to come up with a plan for how we can properly think about those wage ranges. And that would include the reference librarian, the technology coordinator, and the adult services librarian. So I met with the personnel subcommittee on July 16th in executive session to discuss those three staff positions. So I anticipate we'll be needing to do that at the regular August meeting. Yes, Jay.
Are any of these potential wage increases figured into the overall 22 budget?
They will be. I will talk with the budget subcommittee about that and see where we come out. But I did present a wage sheet to the personnel subcommittee in executive session that comes out very similarly to where we are now and to the wage sheet that I sent you tonight.
Can I add to what you said, Catherine?
Of course.
So when we met the first time as a subcommittee, we just discussed the new, the open position for the young adult librarian that we're looking to hire. And all this came about because we weren't getting candidates for the job. And it was mainly because the salary was not desirable. So we did vote to increase that. That would be our recommendation, is to increase that. And then Catherine had mentioned this whole issue about now it comes to, we haven't had a wage increase based on, like cost of living or anything like that in quite some time. And we don't have a schedule right now that's in place to afford for that. And so we decided to meet the second time to talk about those positions as they are now, and what we can do about that. And so we had quite a rich discussion, I think, about the difference between it being a merit pay and being like a cost of living increase sort of deal. That we're trying to move with the times, and we're trying to be competitive with other like districts, other towns. So Catherine had recommended some options, and what we thought was promising. And I don't believe we didn't take a vote last week, did we?
No,
Yeah.
not yet.
No, we just talked about how it would probably be our preference is to do a 1%, 2%, 3% model based on the amount of time. It was based on the amount of time, right, Catherine?
Mhm. Yes.
That those employees have been with us, to make the just a small adjustment so that they can be more in line, and we're retaining staff that are valuable to our library.
Yeah, I don't want to be taken wrongly here. I'm just want to make sure that we've covered it in the overall 22 budget. What these people are making in comparison to other libraries, I'm sure is on the lower end. And I'm sure if we're going to retain them, it's something we've got to look at big picture. I'm just looking to make sure that we've covered it in the 22 budget. That's all. Thank you.
I just want to add, as I recall, Catherine, you've been very good at reducing the usage of on-call staff. And so because Catherine has been managing staffing levels in a very efficient way, the cost of the on-call staff has been reduced, and hopefully that savings we will be able to apply to bringing up the professional librarians so that they're all at a similar level.
Right. Catherine also indicated that there are some open positions for pages, and is it a library assistant as well?
Yes.
That's vacant right now. And so we said if that remains vacant, is that sustainable for the next year? And she indicated that she thought that because we have the less on-call hours, that we're able to use, she's able to utilize the funds that we already have saved from that, that she feels that it will be sustainable, at least for the next year.
Thank you, Kim. And something I'd like to also do is potentially prepare a wage sheet for the next 2 to 3 fiscal years. This has been something I've been thinking about, mostly with the revelation that there could be significant changes to minimum wage. And I think that could impact our budget in the sense of we may have less staff, but need to have higher wages due to the state minimum wage set. And, we have no choice about that, which is okay. But I think that it just makes me think about the future of wages here at Tiverton Library a little more closely. If we're able to have some sort of schedule about how the minimum wage will increase, whether it is going to be $15 within the next couple of years, something like that. So if we can plan for it, we should. So I think that would be a good next step once we have everything settled for fiscal year 22. Yes, Jay.
As it addresses minimum wage, it's already law. I mean, $15 will be by 2025, so we can compete with our neighbors. And there's already a wage schedule set up in the law, so you can determine how we're going to pay those wages as they increase every year.
That's going to be very helpful. Thank you.
I like that we're in a position now where we can be proactive instead of reactive, which I think that we, when many of us started out on the committee, it felt like that's what we were doing. We were reacting to things that had already happened. And now we're kind of caught up with ourselves. And it's nice to see the library going in that direction where we can plan.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you, Kim, and thank you, Kathy. And thank you also, Chris, for being part of the personnel subcommittee and discussing this with me. And I know a bit of our conversation last week too was, and the week before, were really the market-based versus merit-based. And I think each year we're going to want to look at our wages instead of waiting a couple years to update those, so that we are in line with market-based wages, and that we do look at these comparables each year so that we're able to sort of set that. So if in the middle of the year a librarian leaves, I can go right out to hire, and we won't have to be comparing and contrasting between us and different libraries throughout the year, and it will just be sort of automatic in a sense.
So the personnel subcommittee recommends to the full board that we make the lower end of the young adult services librarian pay scale to $21.98 per hour.
And that's really for all professional librarians.
I thought we could only discuss the young adult here tonight.
We didn't have a vote in the subcommittee on the other three librarians.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
So can I make a motion, Carol?
I'm happy to make a motion to increase the minimum pay for our young adult librarian to $21.98 an hour, effective immediately.
I'll
I
second.
second that motion.
I'll second.
Carol Herman,
Aye.
Sandy Mantell,
Aye.
Chris Ryan,
Aye.
Jay Edwards,
Aye.
Kim Sutherland,
Aye.
Kathy Clarendon, aye. And I'm not playing favorites here. I'm just going around the way you show up on my Hollywood Squares, by the way.
Thank you, everyone. I'll actually be posting that position with that updated wage tomorrow. So we should have a new librarian, hopefully by September, sometime in September, I'm thinking.
Excellent. All right, let's move right along to the director's report.
Okay, so you'll probably notice a little bit of a difference this month, but I don't have a COVID update on our director's report, on my director's report this month. I felt like the time had come where we're pretty much back to normal, just a few small things here and there. So
Don't jinx it.
yeah, I know. Knock on wood, wherever it is. So I'll go ahead and I'll give you my monthly statistics report. So actually, I'm really, really happy with our circulation statistics. They've been pretty strong over the past couple of months, and June was no different. So you can definitely see this time last year, we were just reopening to patrons coming in the building. We'd been doing curbside since May 2020, and June was when patrons were able to come back into our building on a limited capacity and with limited services. So the statistics last year are just going to be minuscule because I think it was only a few days that we were open for June. So it's going to look like we had a huge jump, which we technically did from last year. But when you look at those graphs, it will be reflected there. So I hope that we see more and more patrons back through our doors. Going forward, July was a good month. July has been very busy. June was a great month. I've noticed more and more patrons coming through each day. We're actually hitting some days above 200 patrons coming through our doors, which is a good thing to see. And I am also going to mention, just pull my notes back up here, mention that our librarians have been at the Tiverton Farmers Market on Tuesdays, which has been a great outreach opportunity. This is also helping us to get the word out about our new fine-free status. And so that has been going well. We have a lot of promotional materials out here throughout the library. We're still working on getting it on our date due slips and on the self-checkout machines. And so I hope we'll see some faces back in the library now that we are fine-free. Outdoor programming has presented some challenges. I cannot lie, especially with how the weather has been over the past 2 weeks. But in June, there is always something coming up, whether it be the weather or just making sure that we're on schedule with our lawn maintenance crew and making sure that we're not double booking a program with lawn maintenance. So that has been something that we will see for the rest of the summer as well. Major kudos to our programming staff who have been working through it all. Despite last summer being a strange summer and different from our norm, this summer is also a little bit different with all the outdoor programs. So it's something that I think patrons have enjoyed, being outside a little bit more, but next year I'm hoping for a regular summer. And the last thing I'd like to mention is that on the monthly statistics sheet that I send around with all the different numbers for programs, you're going to see some different designations on there than in the past. So you'll see in person, virtual, synchronous, asynchronous, hybrid events. Those are more for my side of things. And it's because OLIS is going to require us separating out those different types of programs for our annual report. So it's just a few extra steps for staff each month in their monthly reports to me that they need to divide these out. And that's how we're going to keep track of things for the year. And that way it makes the annual report a little bit easier. So, and the annual report actually opened last week. I have not started on it yet. It will be done by September, I can tell you that. But it is just something that it is very time consuming. So I like to set aside a couple days just to really delve into it. So to come, that is to come. Any questions about the monthly statistics or any library services or programs questions? Yes, Sandy.
I got a question. I was going through the statistics. It's only a small thing. I didn't realize we did notary service at the library.
We do, yes.
Is that well publicized?
It is. It's on our website, and we actually have a good number of people call about it every couple of days, and we have 2 staff members. So it is really helpful to have 2, especially because if one is on vacation and the other is here. So it is a very well used service.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
it comes up on Tiverton happenings at least once a week.
It does. Yes, it does. All right, well, that's all I have for the director's report.
All right. Any comments, questions, anything else?
I do
Carol.
have a question, Catherine. Now we're fine free. How about if somebody accumulated fines, say unpaid fines from last year? Do they need to pay them, or are those getting erased?
They do not need to pay them. Those have been wiped, and that is what other libraries have been doing. So that is what we did as well. And we actually, for the past year, there haven't been fines other than for billed items. So it was really, really old items. So that's good to know. I actually have the numbers for you if you're interested in what was cleared. So.
Well, in
It was
case,
mostly-
there were patrons who weren't coming in because they owed some money for late fines. Now they know that everything has been erased.
Exactly. And it was mostly on DVDs, I'll tell you that much. But
Because
those
they were $1 a
also-
day, right?
Yes, those are also our higher fine items. So I do also want to think about, in the past, we've done what was called food for fines. So in November, we had collected, it was one canned good or one non-perishable item per dollar off your fines amount. So I think it would still be nice if we were able to have a drive or a donation collection here, because the items that were collected went to Amicable Church, who I know are doing their Thanksgiving basket drive this year. So I'm going to work with our librarians on setting up a drive for that.
If there are no other comments or questions, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All right. Thank you, everyone. See you next month.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.